どうも、勝手に電力2.0で始めたいと思います。今日1632回目というところで、GH プロトコルがですね、この3年ぐらいかけて結構いろいろ改定の議論でなされているので、このあたりを少し見ていきたいなと思っていますと。この Introduction. Overall of GH protocol is a greenhouse gas protocol. GH protocol is a multi-stakeholder partnership of the business, non-governmental organization, NGOs, governments, and other convened by World Resources Institute (WRI) and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development (WBCSD) launched in 1998. The mission of the GH protocol is to develop internationally accepted greenhouse gas GH accounting and reporting standards and to promote their adoption in order to achieve a net zero emission economy worldwide. まあ、基準を作っていくみたいなところですね。Purpose of this document. この目的は This standard development plan outline the objective, scope of work, standard development process, and work plan for revising the existing GHG protocol scope 2 guidance and to produce and update scope 2 standard and supporting guidance. まあ、スコープ2のところ、リビジョンですね。で、This is intended as a public document to provide information for stakeholders participating in the process as well as for those not actively participating in the process. This document will be updated as needed if the standard development plan evolves, such as any refinements to the scope of work or changes to the timeline. History of Standard Development, the Scope 2 guidance was published in 2015 to provide detailed equipment requirements and guidance on Scope 2, accounting and reporting. Following the publication of the Corporate Standard Revision Edition in 2004, companies and their stakeholders had identified conceptual and technical challenges with the corporate standards recommendation on scope 2 accounting and reporting, including the question of how renewable energy purchases should be reflected in scope 2 reporting. Underlying this accounting and reporting question were questions relating to, first, instruments. What constitutes a renewable energy purchase? どんなあれで再エネっていうのが買っていくのかということですね。What is included in the supplier specific emission factor? How comparable are green power programs? Second concept, how can a company claim to use only renewable if it uses inherently untraceable grid distributed energy? If green power is used by some companies, how does that impact the emission reported by other consumers? Impact on global emissions. Do green power programs directly or indirectly reduce GHG emissions over time? The Scope 2 guidance aim to answer these questions, which are further articulate in section 1.3 of the Scope 2 guidance. The amendment made to the corporate standard within the Scope 2 guidance intended to enhance the relevance, completeness, consistency, transparency, and accuracy of report Scope 2 emissions. Corporate Standard Update Overview. まずオーバービュー見ましょうと。GH Protocol is undertaking a coordinated process to update its corporate suite of standards across four work streams. The first, corporate standard; second, corporate scope 2 guidance; third, scope 3 standard and guidance; and fourth, to provide new guidance or accounting and reporting for corporate actions and market instruments, building existing GH protocol standards and guidance where relevant. Since the publication of greenhouse gas protocols, corporate accounting and reporting standard, corporate value chain, Scope 3 standard, Scope 3 calculation guidance, and Scope 2 guidance, there have been many important developments in greenhouse gas accounting and reporting. Among these are the Science-Based Target Initiative, the trend toward the target, mandatory climate disclosure regulation, use of the standards by those thousands of companies, and academic research on their use and impact. Background and context. The Greenhouse Gas Protocol A corporate accounting and reporting standard, revised edition. Corporate standard provides requirements and guidance for companies and other organizations preparing a GHG emission inventory. Since the publication of the revised edition in 2004, the corporate standard has emerged as the world fundamental standard on GHG inventory accounting. The corporate standard has continued to take on greater importance with the growing number of organizations accounting for the managing their GHG emissions and the establishment of voluntary and mandatory disclosure and target setting programs. The GHG protocol scope 2 guidance require dual reporting of indirect emissions and the purchase for electricity, steam, heat, and cooling using two distinct methods. ロケーションベース。この辺はマーケット基準とロケーション基準ですね。Located based and market based reporting. The location-based method assigns emissions based on the average emission intensity of the grid in which an organization operates, while the market-based method reflects the GHG emission associated with the choice a customer makes regarding its electricity supplier or product. ロケーションベースで平均取るんですけど、ある意味、努力が実るっていうところで言うと、マーケット基準がいいよねってところからもともとありますねと。The GHG protocol scope 2 guidance require dual reporting は、これは言ってますねと。Over the last 9 years, this guidance has provided organizations across the globe with a common framework to report indirect GHG emissions associated with the consumption of purchased energy. 電力の購入に関しては、いろんなフレームワークを作っていると。By clarifying GHG protocol accounting rules and fostering transparency to scope 2 guidance has supported organizations in setting emission reduction targets, developing internal abatement plans, and disclosing emission-related data to investors and other stakeholders among the other benefits. Simultaneously, significant advancements in research, technology, data availability, and regulatory policy over the past decade have provided a reasonable cause to consider update and clarifications to Scope 2 guidance. Specifically, this progress has highlighted the need to assess how the income of the outcome of the current location and market-based accounting method align with the original design expectations and how updates could enhance these outcomes. The summary of feedback from global stakeholder survey and consultation. Between November 22 and March 23, the public was invited to provide feedback on the current suite of corporate standards and guidance, including the scope 2 guidance, and provide suggestions for either maintaining current practices or developing, update, and new additional guidance. This feedback informs the scope of work detailed in Section 5. Though, through this consultation, the GHG Protocol Secretariat received submissions from over 400 organizations to their Scope 2 stakeholder survey, and approximately 70 proposal submissions related to topics in the Scope 2 guidance. Survey respondents represented 39 countries across 6 continents and included companies. すごいですね。世界からいろいろ意見が来てる。Consultant industry group, non-governmental organizations, academia, and the government. This feedback, in addition to GHG Protocol Secretariat's led engagement with over 1,000 stakeholders between late 2021 and 2024, have showed strong interest in location market and project-based accounting method and have reviewed several key suggestions and improvements as outlined below. ということで、まずこの辺のマーケットとロケーション基準ですね。Improve the structure of GHG protocol standard. 改善しろよと。Many stakeholders suggest that the GHG protocol should consolidate its requirements across all its corporate standard related documents. I.e., example, Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 to streamline GHG accounting and reporting requirements and keep calculation guidance and examples separate. Second, to promote alignment with voluntary and regulatory climate programs. Respondents strongly urge the Ghg protocol to coordinate closely with voluntary target and goal-setting programs such as the Science-Based Target Initiative and policy-making authority, which mandate climate-related disclosure, including EFRAG and the US Tech, and the International Sustainability Standard Board, ISSB, within the International Financial Report Standard, IFR Foundation. 3. Clarify the objectives of the current accounting method. Many respondents provide feedbacks on the objectives and the theory of means underlying the location-based and market-based method, whether the objectives have been achieved in practice, and whether or how they should be amended going forward to align with the Ghg protocol's evolving purpose and role in supporting Ghg target setting programs as well as climate disclosure mandates. 4. Make technical improvements to the current location and market-based accounting and reporting requirements, and simultaneously elevate the role of project accounting with various suggestions outlined below. Location-based methods make the clarifications and/or add specificity and requirements, require or recommend the use of more precise data, including use hourly meter, これ hourly なんですね, and hourly emissions factor. Use consumption-based as opposed to production-based grid average emission data. A market-based method. Make clarification and added specified in requirements. Require or recommend the energy attributes certificate EAS meets requirements for additionality. 追加性ですね。Require or recommended matching EACs to electricity consumption on hourly basis within physically deliverable market boundaries。これ境界線のやつですね。実際に物理的につながっているとじゃダメだ。Require or recommend matching EACs and hourly basis and within physically deliverable market boundaries as described above, as well as from incremental or newer resources. Project-based method elevate the importance of project accounting by requiring or recommending reporting of avoided and induced emission impact using marginal emission rates alongside the Scope 2 inventory that uses method to allocate the entire grid's emissions. Change the allocation of market-based method in Scope 2 to instead use consequential accounting methods to quantify emissions impact using an equation similar to induced emissions, avoided emissions impact. Change the reporting requirements within Scope 2. Also, stakeholders propose improvements differed in their technical detail as described above. Many stakeholders suggested various combinations of the improvements detailed above within their proposal broadly. The proposal highlighted four possible combinations of reporting requirements and recommendations. A. Report both location and market-based method Scope 2 totals as is required in the existing Scope 2 guidance. B. Report as single market-based method Scope 2 total. C. Report rocket-based method total and project-based quantification using the consequential accounting method. D. Report or rocket-based method total, market-based method total, and project-based quantification. Added the clarification and new guidance. Respondents also provide various suggestions for adding clarifications and new guidance, including for specific use cases, new technologies, and data. Examples including clarifying the ability to use EACs in Scope 3, the relationship between accounting for emission in Scope 2 and Scope 3 Category 3, guidance for purchase, steam, heat, and cooling, accounting for transmission and distribution, T&D, losses, accounting for electric vehicle charging and leasing assets, the Ghg protocol's involvement in developing global emissions factor database or other activities. Objective and scope. Objective of revision. The objectives of the revision to Ghg protocols, scope 2 standard, and guidance include ensure the standards continued effectiveness in meeting its objectives, promote interoperability with key mandatory and voluntary climate disclosure and target set programs and standards, incorporate advancements in research and science, current uses of the standard and of resulting Ghg inventory data, stakeholders' feedback and best practice in implementing the standard since it was published, improve coherence and integration across Ghg protocol standard and guidance, provide additional guidance and clarification to reduce the need for interpretations where possible, improve structure and presentation where needed to improve user-friendliness, legal interpretation, and the ease of verification.